A very warm good morning to all of you. We welcome you to the fifth annual edition of National PSU Summit by Elets Technomedia. And this edition uh, has a lot of eminent dignitaries from PSU sector throughout the day participating in this event. And currently, we are starting with the inaugural session of this prestigious PSU Summit. And we have eminent dignitaries here with us joining on the dais for the inaugural session of Elets National PSU Summit, powered by TCS Ion. And the topic of this inaugural session is very vibrant and very relevant in today's scenario. It is about public sector enterprises driving India's self-reliant economic growth to make an Atmanirbhar Bharat. And we have eminent panelists here to uh, inaugurate this summit and have a wonderful discussion on this topic in the inaugural session. I welcome Mr. Rajesh Aggarwal, Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor in Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Mr. Aggarwal, a very warm welcome to you. Then I invite Mr. B.N. Sarkar. I welcome him. He is Chairman and Managing Director of Central Electronics Limited. Welcome, Mr. Sarkar. And from industry, we have an industry leader, Mr. Venugopal Ramaswamy, who is Global Head of TCS Ion, Tata Consultancy Services. Welcome, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you.
And thank you. And this session will be moderated by Dr. Ravi Gupta, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Elets Technomedia Private Limited. Welcome, Dr. Gupta. And I request you to please take over from here. Thank you.
Sure. Namaskar. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with us. Some of eminent speakers and leaders in their own field and their own domain. And this is the PSU summit being organized by Elets. And as the theme of this event is about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now the whole nation is discussing about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and PSUs are a very, very important part of the economy. And they are considered as the engines of the economic growth of the country. And what we are going to discuss in the whole day is that how can PSUs do a major lead, taking a major lead in developing India as a Atmanirbhar Bharat. So let me request our keynote speaker of the day, Shri Rajesh Aggarwal ji, who is Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum, to please give a keynote address on your vision on role of PSUs in the Atmanirbhar Bharat concept, the idea. So over to you.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you to Elets team, Ravi and Karthik and others, and morning to all the colleagues on the panel also. I have been involved in PSUs at the state level and at the national level, especially in IT, banking, and now petroleum. If we see the history of PSUs after the independence, they played an absolutely stellar role. Our banking sector played phenomenal role in basically funding the infrastructure, and PSUs actually built a lot of infrastructure. And we had very resilient private sector also, some big names like Tata's, Birla's also, who started actually much before independence and still continue to be strong. But the public infrastructure, primarily after independence, PSUs had a great role. So as they say, a lot of water has flown down the Ganges, and now PSU's role is being redefined. And if you see the latest, basically, thinking in the government, even the strategic sector is being opened up. For example, in space, private sector is being encouraged, space, defense production, etc. So in all sectors, private sector is being welcomed. And this will also force PSUs to basically rethink and redefine their role in the economy. And again, if you see the latest notes in the strategic sector also, private sector will also be there and some public sector will also be there. And to some extent, the cost plus ideology in the PSUs, that does stifle innovation to an extent. If you are sitting pretty and you are doing your cost calculations and you are adding a profit and then selling off the things or charging that to the infra or whatever, that sometimes sort of makes you a bit, I won't call it lazy, but not that innovative. But in the last 6 months, the whole world has become topsy-turvy. The pandemic has totally shaken up everything. All our cherished beliefs in social structure, in economics, they have sort of gone for a toss. And basic survival has become difficult in some sectors. In some sectors have totally sort of rethought their business models. Right from the Kirana store by the corner of the street, people have sort of changed their business models. Now I'm in the petroleum ministry. So the crude price is from $100, $60, $20. And in April, we had a funny event. The crude price actually went into negative for a day, for one delivery actually. So how do you operate in such a sector? And especially our exploration sector actually requires gestation period are long. Developing a well is very heavy cost. And then if you don't know the price at which you will be able to sell, it will be $20, $60, $100. Variation in next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's very difficult. So you have to basically do a lot of, you have to go back to the drawing board basically. So in this context, today's meeting, it's very apt in a sense that it looks at a lot of factors. So for example, in my ministry in petroleum at the moment, and I'm on board of ONGC and BPCL also. ONGC is basically into exploration sector, and due to HPCL refineries also, then a lot of retail pumps also, and BPCL is obviously into refineries and retail. And there we are talking of a lot of things. One obviously is IT usage. Now a lot of people are working from home at management levels, at executive levels. While people on the field, they have to work in the refineries, the workers have to go and work on the refineries and exploration and so on. But a lot of, so all of us have become very familiar with work from home and virtual conferences and so on. And as many industry leaders are saying, these things are for the long haul. Even when the pandemic goes away, the work from home and virtual meetings will continue. Though more and more people will start going to offices, but these will also continue. So public sector also has to sort of deal with it. Also in some places, when you see that with 30% strength, we can achieve 90% output, it does make you think. So maybe we will see more VRS schemes also, more cost cutting on that count also, more thinking on that count, that are we overstaffed? In cost cutting, people are now trying every trick in the book. For example, one of our companies, they shifted from basically rate to roll, they shifted the freight movement from roads to railways, and they estimate saving at 50 crores per annum. And this will obviously continue after epidemic, after the pandemic is over. And we have shared this best practice amongst all our PSUs. that please try out, and we are sharing such best practices amongst all our PSUs. Every PSU is coming with some cost cutting innovation or some production enhancement innovation. Then the whole Atmanirbhar movement. Basically now, even today, the global personal movement is practically not there. For example, in our sector, a lot of people, actually, a lot of experts have to come from abroad. It's total global expertise we use. And there we are obviously facing problems. Initial 2-3 months, obviously movement of goods, also movement of imports, that got affected very badly. And now, whether it's China standoff or other issues also, so the whole concept of Atmanirbhar becomes very important. When the supply chains become disrupted, even the earlier just-in-time inventory, very lean inventory, this used to be very, very sort of positive thing. And now with companies with lean inventories, when supply chains got disrupted, basically they were in a limbo. While companies who were maintaining fat inventories, they could work on. So there is rethink on everything. So, and in petroleum sector, we have actually the biggest sort of capex amongst all the ministries. For example, last 4 years, we have capex of more than 1 lakh crores per annum. Pipeline infrastructure, refinery infrastructure, and so on. And there was a lot of dependence on external factors. For example, the steel. A lot of steel we use, sort of it was cheaper to get it from outside in a sense. Though we can very easily ramp up our internal capacities in the country. Even things like, for example, we have now PNG piped gas coming into our home. That PNG meter which is in our kitchens, we were making only 10% or 20% of the requirement of the country. And we are scaling up basically piped gas at home like anything. And meter requirement, which is very small component, that will grow exponentially. So our companies are now hand-holding all the local manufacturers, the local small vendors, MSME players, even the bigger players. So our companies are hand-holding them, giving them sort of a assured contract for next 2 years, 5 years, so that they can put in money. They are hand-holding them on technical aspects. They are doing joint ventures also, so that they can put in money from that government puts in money also upfront. In CSR also, a lot of PSUs, not only petroleum PSUs, but PSUs across the spectrum, under startup schemes, even from our regular budgets of PSUs as well as CSR funds, a lot of startups are actually getting a lot of hands-on help from all the PSUs. I can give an example where our 3-4 companies actually have sponsored purchases from a company called Bandicoot. So Bandicoot is a small robotic machine which actually goes into sewer to basically clean up the sewers. Very unfortunately, even now we hear that workers went into the sewer to clean it up and they died also. And it's also actually totally undignified in this 21st century that people have to go into the sewers when the machines can do the job. This Bandicoot machine is actually a very good example of very high tech. Actually, it uses a lot of artificial intelligence to see where the stuck up mud is there, where to take it out, and a lot of imagery and a lot of AI learning is there in that machine. And our PSU is actually sponsoring such companies also. So a lot of innovation, local innovation is getting sponsored. So startups, Atmanirbhar, getting more and more purchases within the country. Our PSUs and government actually hand-holding our small vendors, big vendors, giving them sort of guarantee that, okay, for next 5 years, we will purchase your things. Please put in your money, put in your efforts. Uh, IT innovations, much apart from work from home, etc. A lot of IT innovations are coming up. Cost cutting measures I talked about. So very innovative cost cutting measures, very innovative production enhancement. For example, now we are working with coal ministry for coal gasification. Uh, so uh, enhancements, production enhancements can come from so many factors. And when your whole business survival is at stake, so you have to obviously be very innovative and agile. And also, the very first point I talked about, that government is encouraging private sector participation in sectors which were sort of no touch till now, like defense production, space, etc. So our PSUs have to sort of really sort of get their act together and be ready to be very competitive and investor friendly, user friendly, customer friendly to compete with the private sector, like happened in telecom, like happened in airlines. So some of our PSUs actually came up aces also. They started doing good work. So the same thing now we are doing in BPCL disinvestment of the Bharat Petroleum. At the moment in the country, we have hardly 5% private petrol pumps. So competition is welcome everywhere, and our PSUs and all the government servants, we have to come up to the mark to sort of stand up to the competition and first, earlier than that, stand up to the pandemic and survive and grow. Uh, so thank you so much. So I thought these were my initial comments, and I look forward to joining in between throughout the day to learn from other colleagues. Thank you so much.
Sure, sir, and thanks for a uh, perspective you have given across the various aspects from working from home to privatization to innovation and cost cutting to disinvestment. So I think like there's a whole range of things which have been triggered uh, by COVID. And overall, I think the policy of the government is also to look at how to make India self-reliant. So I will request sir, if you can stay back in the whole inaugural session where you can also like, listen to our other two eminent speakers. So let me move to another eminent speaker here from TCS, Shri Venguswamy Ramaswamy. He is the global head of TCS Ion at TCS. And TCS is another great example of Atmanirbhar Bharat actually. This is a company which is considered a global leader in the IT services. And listening to their perspective on Atmanirbhar and innovation would be a great idea. So, welcome, Mr. Venguswamy.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and good morning to all of you in the panel as well as who are listening uh, through this streaming activity. As Mr. Rajesh Aggarwal mentioned, things have changed in every possible dimension that we could imagine. And this is a great example of another dimension that has changed in terms of conferences going live, conferences going digital. Um, Now, I want to stay focused on one specific theme of talent development in this current pandemic world, how that could change and how that can play a very pivotal role in the theme of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, all of us know that India has put significant focus on becoming self-reliant. There are huge investments that are happening from the PSUs, from the corporates. There are major policy reforms that are getting pushed. And I believe PSUs will have a very key role to play in tandem with the corporates to realize this vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's going to be a reality. Now, PSUs are increasing in house manufacturing and service capabilities in a big way. There are a number of projects that are directly aimed at Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it's creating huge opportunities for PSUs and other feeding MSMEs on the PSUs itself. And I think Mr. Rajesh Aggarwal rightly observed that the benefit of that is not just for the PSUs, but also for a number of agencies that are feeding onto the PSUs itself. Now, clearly, the PSUs are transforming themselves. There is a set of new technologies that is constantly changing, and it's also changing the nature of jobs that they are offering to the market. But the key question to ask is the workforce ready for this new type of jobs? Are we really creating them for the future jobs? We believe the future of PSUs and also many corporates will greatly depend on its ability to attract the right talent and also upskill the current talent that the PSUs carry. As we say in TCS, a large effort being channelized by us to make sure we continuously upgrade our people as we bring in new people into the company itself. And hence, we worked on a unique program called as Talent Development Center, a very unique concept to support us and also to support the PSUs and corporates in the country. Now, this Talent Development Center primarily enables organization to build the capacity at speed, at scale, through a set of what we call as phygital interventions, a set of physical plus digital interventions. So, what I want to do today is to share with all of you a set of 10 clear practices, inputs, insights that can help the PSUs in order to focus towards talent development within their organization and hence become a key enabler for the Atmanirbhar Bharat itself, right? So let me go through each one of those 10 unique things. We all believe talent development is about having a digital platform. Many of us believe that. But we are of the opinion that platform is key, but that does not help on its own. Now, learning platform is a key element in any learning ecosystem in the organization. There is no doubt about it. It provides a very wide reach to the learners through anytime, anywhere, any device learning. It is becoming mainstream today. But along with the supporting structures and collaborative learning, it should also help to integrate with a large number of third-party systems and provide an ability to learn both online as well as offline. Now, today's learning analytics is giving deep insights about the behavior of the learner, about the approach the learner has taken in order to do the learning. However, just a learning platform is not enough. We have seen many organizations struggle with adoption of this platform, leading to very, very poor return on investment. So we need to go beyond the learning platform. So that's my first thought. Second, content to learn. Of course, many say content is king. We believe pure content does not attract learners and have them actually stick to the learning itself. So we are witnessing a huge explosion of content. Demand for engaging, personalized, multimodal content is increasing every day. Learners are consuming significant amount of content. They are consuming through social media, they are consuming through various portals. However, such a crowded content marketplace is creating huge amount of confusion. And the easiest way to understand is less than 5% of content when it is initiated by a learner is actually reaches the end of the content itself. Many go down and do not even complete it, right? So it's difficult to attract the learner's attention. Organization should be able to create, curate, or subscribe to the right content to align with learning outcomes. You all know that the average attention span has reduced to 8 seconds. Even a goldfish attention span is 9 seconds. The human attention span is going down. So as PSUs, as leaders in the PSUs, we should use different type of content, bite-sized lessons, videos, podcasts, games, simulations to keep the learners engaged. That's our second thought. The third, a great platform, a great content still does not cut the ice. The service is the new queuing. We believe this new queen will determine the outcome and the impact of learning and make it really count. Our belief is for a learning strategy to be successful, we need to add the secret sauce of learning methods and practices that will help the platform and the content really interesting. These methods could be peer-to-peer learning, could be game-based learning, could be immersive learning, could be reality games, could be nano learning, could be simulations, and many, many more. But what is key for us to accept and acknowledge that a great platform, a good content does not cut ice. The methods and practices that we deploy to make the learning effective is very critical. My fourth point is all physical training rooms in our PSUs must become digital learning rooms on the cloud. That's going to be very critical. Now, traditional training is limited to physical classrooms. We all know during such trainings, learners come together for a few days and return to their normal job after the training. The training organization always worry when they go back, do they really practice what they have learned? In such a brick and mortar learning setup, learners cannot engage in continuous learning. Now, to overcome these challenges, organization must adopt digital learning rooms instead of physical training rooms and ensure that learning can be accessed anytime, anywhere, and enable the learners continuously learn and become a lifelong learner. Digital learning rooms provide tremendous flexibility to organizations to implement their training calendars and design very innovative new pedagogies as well. The fifth point is today's learners' learning patterns have dramatically changed. Today, a very large percentage of capacity building follows a very traditional approach. Organizations offer very long and standardized classroom-based training programs at scale with focus on skills for current jobs. However, learning patterns of the learners have completely changed. They expect very personalized learning, just-in-time learning, experiential learning, multimodal learning, and they are very aspirational. New rhythms in learning clearly indicate that learners are increasingly embracing very short bite nano content that facilitates actually do it yourself approach. Millennials today live in a multi-screen world. My son accesses 5 screens at the same time. I wonder how they do it, right? They give a significant importance to gamified learning and simulation that can make learning fun and very, very interesting. Number six, pandemic has added another unique dimension to learning. And recently, COVID-19 pandemic has imposed a lot of restrictions and posed many challenges in business and learning continuity itself. Now, workforce is not able to travel. They are not going to training centers. And the organizations and PSUs are facing a very arduous task. Some of the PSUs I spoke to, these academies and physical training rooms are all locked up. They are not being used. Only a video session based classes that they have started. But truly a video based classes are unidirectional training to learners. Now, for us to realize the complete potential of training for a self-reliant workforce, and hence a Atmanirbhar Bharat. There should be healthy discussions and debates to explore a topic from various different perspectives. This is very, very key. The seventh one is digital is the new approach to make learning impactful. Now, the digital learning blends the classroom training and the online learning in an anytime, anywhere, any device, any language mode. It actually replaces the lengthy training programs with personalized learning journeys containing very short nano learning modules. Employees can learn at their own pace without hindering their actual job. Organizations can significantly reduce the need for physical training, a huge change both from a cost as well as from an impact perspective. Number eight, hands-on learning in various forms will really help learners with the application of the knowledge rather than just the knowledge itself. A concept learned becomes long lasting when it is augmented by hands on learning. We believe hands on can be done either on the job or even through simulations. We have airline industry beautifully adopted a technology led hands on learning environment, and a game based learning can create more significant impact compared to a textbook driven learning. So hands-on learning can be recorded and assessed. That's a big advantage when you move on to an hands-on learning itself. Number nine, ecosystem play. This is very critical. No PSU should think that learning is internal. Learning has to be externalized. There are organizations that focus on specialized sales training, a right set of technologies, tools, experts, academic partnerships, all are ecosystem play. And hence, PSU should look at learning from an external point of view rather than looking at it from an internal point of view. And finally, we believe PSU should focus on their business and engage with specialists in training development. Now, clearly, we all know PSUs invest significantly in managing the talent development. Rightly so. A very large infrastructure has been set up by the PSUs to impart the training to the existing workforce. But the need of the hour is that PSUs engage with specialists to rapidly train employees in the changing world, improve the employee motivation, integrate the contract workforce, not just their internal employees, provide access to learning resources wherever they are in the world. It really doesn't matter, and increase the overall talent index of the organization. Those are all the 10 points. It is time to reimagine learning. We need to move from training room to a digital model. We need to move from theoretical to experiential. We need to move from activity based to outcome based. We believe this will ensure rapid skill building that is so critical for the PSUs. Now, PSU should focus on their business and engage with specialists in the talent development. As we all say, you grow your business and we grow your talent. And that could be the right approach going forward to upskill the employees and hence make the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat a truly a realizable vision in our view. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Back to Mr. Gupta.
Sure. Uh, Thanks for highlighting the importance of learning and continuous learning in the PSU sector. I think that's a very, very critical aspect, and thanks for highlighting the various aspects and modes of learning innovation in the PSU and all other sectors of the economy. So let me welcome our next speaker, eminent speaker, Shri B.N. Sarkar. He is the chairman and managing director of Central Electronics Limited. CEL is known in the country for a lot of innovations, lot of path-breaking efforts, and we are happy to have Mr. Sarkar here to talk about it. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Respected Sri Rajesh Aggarwal ji, Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Petroleum and Gas, Government of India. Sri Venugopal Ramaswamy ji, Global Head, PCS Ion and Tata Consultancy Services. Dr. Gupta ji, CEO, Editor-in-Chief, Allied Technomedia Private Limited. Participants, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, first of all, I extend my thanks to organize for and inviting me and to give opportunity to share my thought. It gives me immense pleasure to be present here and speak on the designated topic like public sector enterprises driving India's self-reliance, economic growth to make an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Public sector enterprises are the backbone of industries in the country. They are the pioneers and torchbearers for development. There is no second thought that sustainability comes from indigenous development. That too through R&D. So R&D is the most important for development. According to the research and development statistics published by our sister department, Department of Science and Technology, NSTMIS, it shows that we have increased the R&D expenditure from 2008 to 2018, and that is very, very limited. That is 0.7% of GDP. Where Israel and South Korea makes expenditure 4.7% of their GDP. You will be surprised to know that out of this 0.7% of GDP, 75% are borne by the government organization, either central government or state government, as well as higher education, PSU, national labs, and only 25% of that expenditure made by public enterprises. Therefore, PSUs lead the industrial revolution from the front. Of course, there are private entities such as Mahindra, Tata, Ranbaxy, Sun Pharma, etc. are also known as the premier R&D organization as a private entity. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the total system of operation, manufacturing, transport systems, etc., everything became a standstill. Imports become difficult. Economic conditions become weaker. This gives rise to the thought and importance of self-sustainability. Talking about the merits of it, independency will help in deduction of import as a result of saving of foreign exchange, which is a key factor holding our GDP. Competitiveness with global manufacturing resulting to better product market fit. Enhancement in export and employment generation will be the key aspects of India's self-sustainability. Keeping it in mind, Honorable Prime Minister of India declared Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. This is the right time to start with. I express my thanks to the organizer to nurture on this particular topics in the right time. My organization, Central Electronics Limited, being a PSU since last 46 years, has been developing many products indigenously for nation building. Central Electronics Limited, a PSU under the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, Ministry of Science and Technology, established with the objective to commercially exploit indigenous technologies developed by national laboratories and R&D institutions in the country. See, it is very important that we should do R&D with the collaboration of national labs and the industry, so that there will be an ecosystem generation among us, that the actually labs are making the research and they are making the innovation up to the TRL, say 1 to 4, 5. Then we have to reach it. We have to increase this TRL level to 6, 7 and more, so that it should be readily acceptable by the commercial organization. So thereby, Central Electronics Limited are continuously and successfully developed a number of innovative input substitutes through its own R&D efforts and in close association with many premier institutions like National Lab. CL has the credit of development and manufacturing of India's first color TV in this country. So I'm glad to announce here, and many people knows it, first LCD projector that also has been developed by Central Electronics Limited. In the area of solar business, we are the first solar cell developer in this country in 1977. First solar module, first solar PV panel in 1978. We have established or installed 1 megawatt capacity power plant in this country. That is also first installed by the Central Electronics Limited in 1992. Still a pioneer company in SPV business. And today, we are leading the nation towards the renewable energy revolution. Over the years, CL has developed many products indigenously, which are important substitutes, that is import substitutes, strategic defense electronics, etc., etc. Thereby saving huge amount of foreign exchange for the government. Of course, in the COVID-19 situation, this pandemic situation encouraged us for development very, very important components of ventilator, which is utmost important as today's concern. And those components are basically imported till now. And we have developed that. And I'm glad to announce in this forum. With your permission, I will take some of the indigenous interesting development that we have developed for this country in my next few slides. See here, this is my building. First of all, I am glad to inform you, this is a green building identified by the IGBC, and we are the platinum certified organization. For in this campus, we have 1.3 megawatt solar power plant, and 40 to 60% power are generated from solar energy. So basically, in the 4 vertical areas we manufacture, there are different components. We have defense strategic business, solar voltaic, different applications that we generate, railway signaling system, and security surveillance. If I go through it, see, defense, we are making so many components which are, we are the only in the country, and that has been developed in collaboration with different DRDOs and IITs and CSR labs. Solar photovoltaic, we are pioneer, and we are manufacturing almost all the applications as on date, and our installation of power plant from Kanyakumari to Leh and east to west, as well as in the internationally, around 32 countries we have already reached for installation, different application of the solar business. See, I'll give some of the important, I will not take much time, I'll give some of the important component that we are producing. We are the only one in the country that is PCM. It is a defense component for used in the radar, and it is basically heart of the radar, and that we manufacture. I am glad to inform you that we have already saved around 2,000 crore in this country, and it is, we are supplying almost 1/4 of the price. So it has a huge importance. So why I am displaying all this? Because the self R&D development help us to sustainability of this country, which is the basically the mission of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. The second another defense product is the radome. It is for missile on the nose, which we are seeing, and we have indigenously in collaboration with DRDO, we have developed this and supplying to the defense. So it has a, we are basically replacing for the import and saving a government foreign exchange. This is a very interesting this component, that CZT, cadmium zinc telluride, basically from ingot to, we are making this CZT substrate, and it is used for night vision devices for the defense. It is totally restricted, import restricted item, and we are the developer, and this technology has been in collaboration with DRDO. So there, so what I mean to say is, if we make a synergize with the different labs and the institution and the industry, so we can make many more technologies indigenously, which is basically the castle of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Some of the substrates we are making, like this high frequency circulator and isolator for ISRO missile seekers, and it is used for the missile, and we are supplying to ISRO, and this is a very critical component and indigenously developed with the collaboration with, again, by ISRO. See, this is a bulletproof jacket. It is known to all. We are one of the forefront developer of this. We have already developed that alumina-based bulletproof jacket, and we have already taken the total Bhava Kobos from the bark technology, and we will be the manufacturer from A to Z technology that we are getting, and that will be developed in this by our company Central Electronics Limited. and that is a very crucial item and required for this our defense organization. Laser fencing system for border security or any peripheral of the organization. Here, 500 meter apart, we are keeping this laser fencing system so that in between anybody is crossing, his photographs and the alarming systems will be will alert in a remote place through a communication IoT communication medium. So basically here is also very important. So it will reduce the security point of view and 24 hours will service. So security point of view, nowadays we are getting a lot of queries from our defense, BSF and police force. Recently, we have taken a technology from CSR, National NAL, Bangalore. And see, it is basically Drishti. The technology is for the weather visibility measurement. And based on this information, the flight will take off and take off and landing. And we will be the only one India. So far, India was taking from the abroad, and few are supplying by the NAL. Now we have taken the manufacturing facility, manufacturing TOT from NAL, and we are ready and to supply our airport. For your information, we are also not only commercial, but the social aspect also. We are developing many things. One of the important thing I want to share it here, that is Dibbanayon on component device we have developed so that blind people they can't read it, and by virtue they are unfortunate to know what is written on the book. So what happened? We have developed with the collaboration of a CSIR lab, CSIO Chandigarh. That device will give the from text to the voice. So any blind people and illiterate people also will understand what is the written in the books, paper and all. So there are a lot of facilities are there which is not shown here, that particular device. So we have addressed to the social requirement through that particular device. In the COVID-19 pandemic situation that I told you, and encouraged us to develop some of the critical component of ventilator, such as critical pressure sensor, oxygen and air flow meter, oxygen sensor, proportional valve, and piezoceramic element. These are the components are basically the critical component for a ventilator. And here in the past shows that the low pressure sensor, then flow meters and oxygen sensors. That device, that component has been developed for the ventilator and under testing, and it will go for the market. So these are some of the other components like proportional valve under development, and the piezoceramic rings. You know, for the mask maker, that today we are using the mask, and to make that in the CNC machine, that piezoceramic ring is important, that we are developing and supplying to them. So what I want to mention here, that if we have some crisis and people take challenge for developing, and that challenge help us to make indigenously development, which will help us indigenously and create employment generation, then import substitute, and then saving of the foreign exchange. So So what happened? This Atmanirbhar Bharat has given us a lot of importance for development of this nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarkar, for highlighting the so many innovations which CEL has been doing. It's a remarkable achievement. Congratulations to you and your team for being so innovative. And let me request, I think, our panelist and keynote speaker, Shri Rajesh Aggarwal, to give your perspective, sir, on that how the PSU sector has to change and evolve in these new times of the pandemic and post-pandemic era, and how the last 50 years and the next, say, 10 years will be different for the PSU sector as a whole in this country. Sir, over to you.
In my initial remarks, as well as in the two co-panelist remarks, these points have more or less come in. So next 2-3 years, I do see as extreme shake-up period, mainly due to what has happened due to pandemic, but also mainly due to further opening up of the economy due to Atmanirbhar movement also. So a lot of things are going to change for our PSUs. We hope that in the sectors PSUs are operating in, there will be more competition, and our PSUs will be forced to become more efficient, more innovative. So one should, all my colleagues in the PSUs, they have to brace up for that also. And many things across sectors have fundamentally changed. So we have sort of come with innovations, and one doesn't know uh, how the things will evolve in next 6-7 months. Especially the PSUs which were operating on very thin margins also, and many of them actually operate on thin margins. So they also have to basically learn to survive and even change their line of business. For example, I won't go into details. Some of our companies are shedding some businesses and taking on new businesses also. Um, just one example which I can share with you is, for example, fossil fuel. The projections which were there, they have gone in for a toss. Uh, but definitely now, for example, electric vehicles are coming in, renewables are coming in. You might see in near future our petroleum companies becoming biggest investors in renewables. So that moment has also already started. So you will see many new things happening.
So, uh, you have mentioned about a lot of transformation happening. So, requesting our speaker from TCS, Mr. Venguswamy, to talk about how do these PSUs adopt these new ways of doing things, and how important is learning and development, continuous learning and development, and how that as a sector will emerge in the PSU context.
Sure, Mr. Gupta. Just to quickly add to Mr. Rajesh Aggarwal's comment, I think the customers' expectations are going to change dramatically. The customer journeys are going to change dramatically. More and more it is going to be digital, more and more it is going to be touch-free. So those patterns are going to change very significantly, right? What it leads to internally is how well are they prepared to adapt and adopt to these changes is going to be critical for the success of these PSUs. In general, the opportunity is going to go up. The ability of the PSUs to reskill their people, to be prepared to face these opportunities, to capture these opportunities is going to be critical. As I mentioned, to us, one of the most important investments that we are making is on our people. So PSUs need to think about how they can hire the right talent, how they can upskill their current talent to set up things that is not just for today, but for tomorrow. That acceptance to skill, that acceptance to look outward, that acceptance to understand the fact that the customer journeys have changed, are the set of things that they should be prepared to in order to capture this opportunity and truly live to the expectation of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Sure. Great points, Mr. Venguswamy, and requesting Mr. Sarkar to give your comments on how do you see the transformation happening in the PSU sector and your clients' expectation in the COVID era.
Well, uh, the things has been changed a lot during this COVID-19. There is a situation due to standstill of the transport, lot of things. So education system, as Venguswamy expressed, that training course. We also used to give the training course, and now we have to think, and we are also doing that online. The digitization is become the must and utmost important, and in terms of the today's concern. And we have to be digitized everything, communication, also automation, so that, and the upskilling of the indigenous the employees within that, and the regular upgradation is very much important for developing of new technologies. We have to be competitive, and for that the latest technologies knowledge is very much important, and knowledge is that for that knowledge has to be created, and the source is the online education system. I totally agree on that point. And at the same time, I will say the collaboration with the national labs, because I know, being actually as a I am also a scientist G in the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, and I know there are a lot of technologies are available within the national labs like CSR, DRDOs, and all these things, and that technology has to taken up to the industries, and for that TRL level has to increase. And our challenge is through that a synergize to be made among these organizations, and a collaborative way we have to take the technology, we have to upgrade in the industries for the commercialization, and that will help our Atmanirbhar Bharat target.
Sure.
Thank you.
With this, we can end this session here. And I thank all our speakers for joining us, and we will be giving away a certificate virtually. Our thanks, like our way of saying thanks to our speakers. So requesting my colleague Rajesh to please bring on this speaker certificates on the screen, please. I think I will have to just ping him because I'm not sure he's like listening to me. So these are the.
No, thank you, Ravi. Thank you.
Yeah, just a second, sir. Okay. Give me a second and just certificate screen पर ले आइए please.
Mr. Gupta, we can see the certificate on the screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
You can see the certificate. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see it. So, thanking Shri Rajesh Aggarwal ji. Thanks for joining us, sir. And thank you, Mr. Venguswamy ji. And thank you, Mr. B.N.Sarkar, for joining us. And thanking all our audience. Yes, we have a certificate on the screen. I can see right now. So we will be going on with our next sessions. And I request all our audience to keep tuned in and we are live on the Facebook and YouTube, and you will also watch us there. And बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद and namaskar to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.